Okay, we're going to start with national parks, state parks, campgrounds, that kind of thing. Uh, right here up front, it's nice to set some goals. And what's your goal? Uh, do you want to just volunteer? Or you already retired? You don't really need a lot of extra income, but you still want to travel. A lot of these national parks, state parks, they'll accept volunteers. They love it. It's very rewarding. You get to engage in people, talk about history. If that's the kind of work camping you want, it's available. On the other side, do you really need to make money? Do I need to pay for my travel? I need to make money so I can afford to travel. Well, then that's a different scenario. Uh, Another thing you're going to look at is location. So not only what type of work camping you want to do, where do I want to do it at? Maybe you already have destinations in mind. A lot of people, they'll sit around and dream of retiring and being an RVer. Or if you're young enough, I want to get in the van. I want to go work. I want to travel. I want to see the country, but I need money to do that. Another thing we'll get into is resume building, all that stuff. So, anyway, let's get going on the national parks. Let's have some fun. Okay, let's start with National Park Service. This is nps.gov. That's their main website for National Park Service. And this is their Work for Us section right here. I've looked at this many times. Most of everything in here with National Park Service is volunteer work. So if you want to volunteer, work with the visitors, learn about all about the park history, that kind of thing, that's what national parks really look for directly if you're going to work for them. A lot of times you'll get a campground, propane, that kind of thing, a place to stay. But they're really not paid positions. They're more volunteer. Now, they also list here USA jobs for national park. Now, these are paid type, like administrative, maintenance work, police officer, public safety. Those are paid salary positions at certain parks. Look at that in Hawaii. How'd you like that one? Okay, national parks has a second layer of workforce here, though, and what they do is they hire concessionaires. They have over 500 concessionaires throughout all their parks nationwide. And what these guys do, there's a whole list of them here, all 500. We won't go through each one. But these companies hire workers, part-time, full-time, almost all of it's seasonal type work, where you can work within the park system, and it's at paid position. Some offer campgrounds, housing. There's all different kinds. The biggest one is Xanterra. These guys cover a lot of different parks. You can see right here, Death Valley, Glacier National, Grand Canyon. A lot of it's housekeeping type work, bartending, restaurant, driving. So this is a good resource here if you're looking to get into national parks and want to get paid. And this isn't just for retired people. This is for all ages. So be sure to check them out. This is Xanterra, and also all the concessionaires with the national park system. Couple more large concessionaires with national parks. One is Airmark. They list jobs. Look at this, 815 positions found. So be sure to check out Airmark. Another one, Delaware North. They list a lot of jobs, not only for national parks, but for different resorts all over the country. Always remember, figure out your location. Here's another one called volunteer.gov. They're kind of intertwined as well with National Park, Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest, Corps Engineers, Fish and Wildlife. But they also list. Now, these volunteer jobs, that's what they are, volunteer. Normally, you'll just get a campsite out of them. But anyway, you might want to throw this on your list too, volunteer.gov. Working at state parks. I have quite a few friends that have worked like in the Arizona park system. Right here on their website, azstateparks.com. They have their application procedures. They'll list their openings. So it depends on what state you're looking at. Like here's Utah, same thing, different jobs, their application process. What area of the state do you want to work in for how long? That's up to you. Like here's Oregon. So same thing. Now, state parks, some hire concessionaires, some don't. So you have to do a little bit of research on your own. State parks are a great opportunity, and they're a little bit longer term. Like I said, I had friends, they've worked for the state park system for 12 years and love it, and they make a good salary with benefits. Okay, moving on. All right, well, let's take a break real quick. I want you to listen to this interview with my good friend Dan from Montana. He's in his mid 70s. He's been work camping a lot of years. He's also done quite a bit of the Xanterra work, working in national parks, like up around Yellowstone. So anyway, we had this discussion out in the desert, down in Quartzsite here recently. So here's Dan.
Very easy to get hooked up with Xanterra because they're always looking for employees. You don't always have a selection of what you do because they kind of look at what you offer them, you know. They hired a lot of work campers like me, and they had RV sites that they set up. Although they would collect a small amount out of my paycheck for rent on my RV site and electricity. But it wasn't an awful lot. They didn't pay a lot hourly. They increased it every year I was there. They would increase mine by, 25, 50 cents an hour each year that I was there. Maybe more than that. But as I got to working, like after the first season that I was there, the summer season, I had more knowledge of the jobs that I could get, what to apply for. A lot of the jobs you didn't really have to have a lot of training. You just had to have a willingness to work hard and do something you wanted to do. And that's what I did. I focused on the things that I wanted to do. And if you got your application in early enough, you had a good chance of getting that position. Although the position also goes along with the location. For instance, if you wanted to work in a hotel, you'd have to work where they have hotels, which is maybe Old Faithful and Mammoth and Lake. If you wanted to work in a campground, then you had to work where Xanterra had the campground service. And there's several of those, maybe 5 of those, spread around the park depending on what they had available. But if you get your application in early enough, or if you tell them before you leave the previous year what you want, you have a better chance of getting that position. Treated me real fairly, except for they're really stringent on the rules. If you break the rules, it's the managers don't have any leeway for allowing you to break the rules. They have to document everything you do wrong. Whereas in a private business, the manager will say, okay, well, it's reasonable what you did. Let's just forget it. You can't do that with Xanterra.
Wasn't there a contract or something that?
Yeah, there's a contract you sign with them for a season. I know I did. I signed a contract on the first season, and I think every year, yes, I had to sign a contract for the amount of time that I was, the amount of time in the season. And depending on where you work that season is different. Like, for instance, at Madison Campground, which is a lower elevation, they have a longer operating time. So it's as opposed to Grant Village, which is shorter because the elevation is a lot higher. They close the campground earlier in the fall, open it later in the spring. So that's something to look at when you work with Xanterra, and the location is the time period of your contract. They give a generous bonus at the end of your contract as long as you complete the contract. If you don't, well, then you don't get the bonus.
How many years did you work for Xanterra?
I worked 3 seasons.
Three
Three
seasons?
summer seasons.
And mainly what, Yellowstone and up that way? Or?
I worked Madison Campground and Grant Village, both of those.
Would you recommend that, Xanterra, working for them?
Yeah, I think I would. Especially, it's really good for young people, I think, because they get to meet so many other young people from all over the world.
Yeah.
So it's really a good eye-opener for them to see how these other people from other parts of the world live, act. For the older people, it's not a bad situation because they get that RV site, although they don't make a lot of money. And it's a good place to live. I mean, you're in the mountains. You have all these interesting sights to go see.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it is that way. It's very good.
So, for work camping, you've done it how many years now, though? You've done it a lot of years.
I've done it 7 years up there, 7 summers.
As a work camper?
As a work camper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Then,
I'm going back for 2 more at least.
Yeah, and how did you get with the hotels? That's not Xanterra.
No, I connected with the hotels in West Yellowstone, Kelly Inns, through Work Camper. I was watching the sites that were advertised on Work Camper, and boy, as soon as I saw the one for West Yellowstone, which is where I wanted to go anyway, I just immediately jumped on it and got my application in. So it was through Work Camper.
That workcamper.com online?
Work Camper News, yeah. And I had been watching them all along, and lots of jobs they announced. And actually, I wanted to go to Death Valley, but I couldn't connect there. With Xanterra also, once you're an employee of Xanterra, like at Yellowstone National Park, well, you can go down to the Grand Canyon and you got a foot in the door already, because they have services down there at the Grand Canyon or at Williams or any number. Yeah, there are a lot of different places that Xanterra has a service. So that's a good thing about working for them.
Yeah. Well, I read online there's 500 concessionaires now for the National Park Service.
Wow.
And they list them on their website.
Okay.
500 concession, which Xanterra is probably the biggest.
Yeah,
a lot of them were
it's gotta
tiny.
be one of the biggest anyway. Yeah.
A lot of them were tiny ones because it's so localized.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know, it might be like a little food shack or something like
Sure.
that. But they still hire people. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. In your opinion, you would recommend work camping?
I like work camping better than doing a camp host, where you don't get much money. For one thing, you get a place to stay. But it seems to me like, and I haven't done it, but I've talked to a lot of people that camp host, and camp host seem to ask a lot more from you than they offer at the beginning. In other words, they want you to work more hours and don't increase the pay. Sometimes it's hard to get the pay, but that's just third-hand news.
Well, and you're also working 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month for just a site and propane.
Right.
So if the site's $500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting in 80 hours, I mean, if you do the math, that's like $4 an hour.
Yeah, right. It doesn't work out.
No, it doesn't work out in your favor, does it?
And like I said, in most cases that I've talked to people who've done it, they want more than 20 hours a week from you.
Yeah.
And they get it.
And then also, like you were referring to, the managers of like at Xanterra, you know, sometimes you get a bad manager that has an attitude towards the new people. You know, don't you a little bit?
You can. I was lucky in that I had good managers when I was working with Xanterra. Uh, yeah, I did. Good managers. I had a problem at the end when I quit working for them because they did something that I thought was unfair to another employee because of, like I said earlier, they don't have any leeway. The managers don't have any leeway. They have a book of rules that they have to follow strictly, and they did with this other employee, and I found it very unfair, so I quit.
Yeah. Now, is that because the concessionaire is under contract with the government, you think? The book of rules?
No, I think the book of rules came from Xanterra itself.
Xanterra themselves. So.
Yeah. But otherwise, I'd probably go back to work for them if I thought I wanted to, and I think they'd probably hire me back. I had a good work record. I like what I'm doing now better because I make more money. I enjoy it more.
You're in Yellowstone, dude.
Yeah, I'm in West Yellowstone, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful place to live.
Yeah. And you get an RV site?
I get my RV site, and I don't have to pay for it. I don't get a bonus, although I did get a bonus this last year, and I don't know why, because I thought I only got it on the first season, but
They like you.
they paid me a bonus at the end of this year, this season.
Well, Dan, I thank you. Yeah, so, I mean, this whole guide's about work camping. And this kind of info is going to help a lot of people that watch this and listen to it and all that. And part of what I'm recommending is that Work Camper News site. And there's that Cool Works. There's a few other sites.
Yeah,
too.
I also get the news from Cool Works. And they have, they don't advertise as many job sites each week, like 10. But the owner has he does quite a bit of philosophizing before he gets to the jobs, which is cool. He has a good head on his shoulders. But the thing I kind of am opposed to with them is they send me so many messages. And if I could limit that to, say, one a month, it would be good instead of so often.
Yeah. Plus, once you're in the work camping arena, you pick up from other people that you meet too, right? About different opportunities.
You do, yeah. Well, sure, you're talking to the work campers. Well, you work with them. You're talking to them all the time, learning from them, and you do get good advice.
Yeah.
Because something else I was going to say about Work Campers News is you put your own folio on there, and you keep it updated. So each season or job that you have, you go back on there and you say, I did this. This is what it worked good for me. This is what I'm qualified for. So any of the employers that are looking for people, they go to Work Camper too, and they can look at these folios of your personal information, and they can come to you. You don't have to go to them.
Isn't that nice? I never knew that. That's good information.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to keep, and part of what this guide is, I recommend building a good resume.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Resume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they want to know what kind of rig you have, trailer,
they do.
motorhome.
They do. They want them generally before they hire you. They want your rig, and they want to see a picture of you.
Yeah.
Not sure what that's about, but I do know what it's about, but I want to say what.
I know.
Think.
Well, a lot of parks they want a rig 10 years or newer.
Sure.
And part of it's doing with. Some of it's county and city ordinances now. I mean, some parks are regulated that way.
Okay.
And also, a lot of people I've seen the problems with in resumes Here they are, they're a retired couple. They were in business all their life, went to college. You don't need a master's degree to go mow lawns. You don't need a PhD to clean toilets and the kind of work that work campers actually do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and they scare the business owner, the RV park owner, saying, okay, I got all these qualifications. They're afraid they're going to come in and try to take over their business.
That could be, yeah.
And that was always a big stickler when I used to look, you know, because I was part of the hiring and firing the people.
Sure, that could be, you know.
Yeah.
But it's one thing, you just mentioned, brought up a thought I had, was I worked with a lot of older people, a lot of older couples, and these are people that had held positions of a lot of authority and responsibility in their past, and they weren't using that. They were just fitting right in with everybody else.
Yeah.
Like the manager I had at Grant, she had been a major in the Army. She controlled a lot of people, and she fit right in with us. It was good. It was good. She didn't lord anything over us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm better than you are.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah, and if you don't, that's great. But also, you don't need to emphasize those qualifications to be in a work camper. You're better off going back to, I've worked construction, I've worked, you know, and really broaden your scope, because I've seen it more than once where someone would come in and within the first hour they're trying to change the way that business owner, that RV park owner or campground's doing business.
Yeah, I agree.
With all the recommend, and this owner, you know, they family owned business for 25 years. I'm going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing this the same way.
We don't want that,
Yeah. And it's almost offensive to them. And chances are it doesn't work out, because the turnover rate of work campers is high. You know, I mean, a lot of them get in there and don't like what they do.
It is.
Yeah.
Or some of them are just trying to get a better job, and they'll take this one while they're waiting for that other one to open up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were talking about that resume you can have on Work Camper.
Yeah.
That comes in beneficial in the way you were talking, like if you're applying for a job and they're wondering if you're overqualified, they can go on that site and see what you've done before. You know, like you've already cleaned toilets.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Or even if you worked in the office, reservation software.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's huge.
Oh, yeah, it sure is.
If you can run a reservation software system.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because it's similar to hotels, and you've been in the hotel business forever.
Mm-hmm. Likewise, they want to make sure it's helpful if they know you can operate different computer programs.
Right. And so, reservation, and also being friendly to customers. I mean, you have to have the upper spirit, even on the days you don't feel like it.
Sure. Yeah, if your resume says, "Hey, I worked for a whole season as a front hotel desk at the front desk in a hotel, and everything was cool."
Yep.
Well, your next employer going to say, "Wow, she already did that." So.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Isn't Dan cool? Mid-70s, he's out making money. His pays for his travel. You know, he's on Social Security. I mean, he could probably retire if he wanted, but he loves it. He's very active, very healthy. Work camp keeps you fit. We also, in that interview, I left it in there because we touched on some other things that are going to come up in other sections of the course. One, he mentioned work camper news, resumes, that kind of thing. We're going to cover that here just shortly. But that's very important, very critical. But even working for Xanterra, he found it through networking. You know, he knew his location, he knew what he wanted to do, and how long he wanted to do it for each. Because all these jobs are seasonal, just the way it is. And you work up north in the summer, you come down south in the winter. Because it's snow and ice. Most parks close in the winter time. But listen to what he said and how he enjoyed it And also some of the hidden things in there, like the rules about Xanterra, the rules about, their contracts. And it doesn't pay that well, but it pays. Plus, you get an RV site. Or they might deduct the RV site from your pay. We're going to get in a little more of that too, as well as how some of these guys pay. I was a RV park manager for 7 years. I was on the other side of the fence. I used to hire work campers. And when also in what Dan and I was discussing of the turnover rate, and some people say they're all these qualifications, which is really not necessary to become a work camper. So anyway, that's coming up soon. And probably the biggest takeaway with Dan is now he's working for a hotel chain in West Yellowstone next to the national park, which is a private company. He's making a lot better money. So he stepped up through the work camping network. He put in his time for a couple years, learned, networked, improved. Now he has a job he really likes and pays very well with the RV site included. Nice, huh? Okay, let's keep trucking.